Welcome to Casey Cares, the voice of Kansas City nonprofits. We share the stories of local nonprofits and the individuals who drive them. At Casey Cares, we connect the nonprofit and business sectors to enhance the quality of life in Kansas City for both our residents and visitors. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. It's challenging to grab teens' attention and then direct them in a positive direction. That is what Kyle Hollins is doing with the Lyriks Institute. Founded in 2019, Lyriks empowers at-risk youth through cognitive behavioral therapy and creative arts programs. With both school-based and cultural interventions, Lyriks works to help youth succeed in a positive way. Kyle knows his crowd. Having been one of those kids, he learned from many personal lessons from surviving homelessness, being involved in gangs, drugs, and incarceration. We welcome Kyle to Casey Cares to share his journey and his mission to help youth here in Kansas City. Welcome, Kyle.
Hello. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I love that intro, though. I really do. I love the way you read it and everything. That was really good.
Well, we're delighted to have you. Where to begin? Let's begin with your own story. Will you share a little bit about your growing up and where your life took you?
For sure. So, born and raised, I'm a Kansas City native. I grew up on 57th in Michigan. That's where I'm from. That means something, right? So, like, Prospect to Paseo from 59th to 55th, it was kind of my region of the world that I grew up in. And one thing that I think is really funny is at that time when growing up in the 64130 area code, we didn't know that it was one of the highest violent areas, not only in the city, but also in the nation. And I think that plays such a significant part in my development growing up, not only because of just living in that region, but the thought processes that also made up that region. A lot of times we think of those data points as numbers, but they're actually people that are connected to other people. And when somebody goes through a traumatic loss or poverty or criminality, we focus on the number or the statistic of that crime or violent endeavor, but that actually creates a web of thought processes and the people that have to surround that. So growing up in that area, what ended up happening to me was, yes, I was raised by my mother. My mom had her master's degree in psychology. My dad is from Odessa, Missouri, right? 5,000 people with only probably about 75 Black families that was there when he was growing up, right? And having a child that doesn't understand neither of those identities, being born in that area code, now all of that is an amalgamation of who I am, right? And that's kind of the things that kind of stirred me and shaped which way I went. But what I love about my story is that my story isn't too different than a lot of other young adults that kind of go through the same thing. And that's kind of where Lyriks was sparked out of, was after my incarceration and going and being a product of cognitive behavior modification, I really realized that a lot of people are trapped in these thought processes. And I stand by the notion anything set in motion will stay in motion until it's met with equal or greater force. And sometimes we need a greater force or something equal to it to shift our thought process. And that doesn't necessarily mean that prison is that thing, because prison kind of focuses on rehabilitation or returning someone back to their original state of mind. Well, habilitation means that we're going to take them somewhere they've never been before. And that's what I believe the heart of what Lyriks is, and the heart of the change that needs to happen, because I genuinely believe if we go to a McDonald's, right, like we're not going to ask for cheese on a cheeseburger because it just comes with cheese. So if we start working on the thought processes of these young adults, just the same way that my thought process had to be shaped and formed when I was incarcerated, I think the growth rate is exponential.
You found a way to recreate yourself. I love this. Habilitation. I love that term, by the way. That was a squirrel, but you found a process that worked for you to go in a new direction. Okay, it's a big leap from directing yourself to say, hey, I have this idea. Let me start a nonprofit and let's go. So, how did that come to be?
Got you. Got you. So I tell this story often, but it really drives the point home. I remember being sitting in front of my probation officer. I got caught with an assault rifle with a 30-round clip on it. And my probation officer was like, oh, why would you have such a large gun? Like, you could have had a small gun. It doesn't, like, you had one of the biggest guns that could do some of the most damage. And I told him, well, I was going to an after party and I wanted to feel safe at the after party. And he asks me, Kyle, he says, why would you go somewhere you could possibly die in and then go there to have fun? Like I don't understand. And of course, I'm like, oh, you don't understand my reality. This was a white man. So I'm like, oh, you don't understand my culture. You just don't get it. And then he asks me another question. He says, Kyle, would you go into a bank knowingly being robbed? And I'm like, no, that's stupid. And then he crosses his arm and he stares at me, right? And I couldn't put that correlation together. I just couldn't do it. And then he asked me another question. He's like, Kyle, does your mom carry a gun? I'm like, no, she doesn't live the life that I live. And then he crosses his arm, then he stares at me. And I knew he had me at that point, but like it wasn't enough to like shift my thought process at the time. So going through my incarceration, I stick and stayed in anything that was programmatic that could work on my thought process because he had triggered it. Right. I knew that there was something that I didn't get or I didn't understand. And I went searching for it within. But again, rehabilitation says I'm going back to something. So I couldn't never find the solution within myself because the solution wasn't there. I would have already applied it. And once I really understood that the solutions were everywhere else, I had to start thinking about what was stopping me from seeing that these solutions existed. And then that's when the thought process and around criminality and poverty and violent ideation started to really like hone in and saying like, yo, I can't see these solutions because I have solutions already. And I've been testing and making sure that they work. And I've proved that they do work, right? And now what's happening is they're just short-term solutions. They're what we call in our program the right choice, but not the effective choice. The right choice solves a problem right now. Effective choices are right over a long period of time. And that's what needed to be planted inside of me with more effective choices. And I needed to learn how to research. So some of those key things are why I kind of made my own shift, but then recognized that when I was incarcerated, that cognitive behavioral modification was instituted into the prison system. The recidivism rate was at 76%, 76.4%. And then cognitive behavior modification, other participants, after being impeded into the prison system for over 10 years, the recidivism rate dropped down to 46.2%. So wow. It doesn't work isn't the question. The question is, how do we make it culturally competent? And how do we make it KC and address the issues and struggles that Kansas City has specifically? And then, allow this thought process shifting mechanism to work. So that was my choice. And that's why I brought it home and started implementing it in Kansas City.
Okay. It's 2019. Tell us where you were and then how you created the nonprofit.
February 2019, I was released from Safford, Arizona, federal prison. I came home, got myself together. A lot of times the justice system wants you to go get a job and go straight into that. But I learned that I needed to build a foundation to put a job on. And what that looks like is getting the bank accounts, getting the understanding like transportation. Is that even possible? What's realistic concerning transportation, housing, and a bank account? I mean, housing and a phone. I needed to make sure that I had those things because those things I feel like are the foundation to adulting. Like we can build anything on that, right? So after getting a job, I ended up working at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church as the office manager. So serendipitous how God works. I was actually the office clerk for the chapel when I was in prison the whole time. So it was a great transition. And I was also the lead orderly for the program that taught the cognitive behavior modification. I actually worked for every one of them that I attended, so I could learn all the stuff behind the scenes. So because I knew I was coming home to bring it, right? So I got transferred from Leavenworth USP into Safford. Leavenworth is where I took my behavior modification classes and did those trainings. I also did another program called Men of Influence, where I ended up teaching. After going through the program, I taught at it. They were graduating about 12 out of 35, and I graduated 32 in my first run. And so I knew I had something. I just needed to figure out I had the programmatic side. I didn't have the business structure side. I got
Mm-hmm.
blessed and went to a lower facility, and the lower the what how do I want to say this?
Security, maybe?
The lower the security. There you go. The lower the security, the more you'll start getting into corporate crimes, right? So the lower I went, the more I got introduced to the white collar criminals, right? Like the people that had the nonprofits, the people that were using the business community and all that type of stuff. I just chose not to be greedy like them, but their strategies and their methodologies, they actually work, like board governance and just getting an idea of what I needed to build the nonprofit. So when I came home in 2019, that was my gun ho mission, was to get it started, get it off the ground. So I left in February 19. I LLC Lyriks in August of 2019. The pandemic hit. And then we went right into, and then, like my program is based on interaction. It's based on relationship and community. So once we took that out, it was kind of like, all right, so now you just kind of, all you can do is build from here, build the bones. So we got the not-for-profit status in 2020, which was a blessing. 2021, we launched the programming in January. We had entered into the schools, I want to say in March or April. And then we had geared up for our big summer program that we did, and we had been off and running ever since.
Wow, you are determined.
Yes,
and dedicated both. It takes both to create and run a nonprofit. That is for sure. We're talking to Kyle Hollins. He is the founder, CEO, executive director, all the big titles for Lyriks Institution.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's dig in. Tell us about your program, what you offer, and who you're working with.
For sure. So we have 7 programs, but we flagship three programs. Those programs are designed to serve at-risk young adults that are from 13 to 25 that fall under 3 categories. That's poverty, criminality, and violence. What we have identified is those are all 3 different thought processes and have to be addressed differently. A lot of times what happens is poverty imitates criminality and violence. This is why we can't tell who's really the shooter or who's really the scammer, because they all dress the same. They all move the same. They talk the same, right? Well, to be able to rob a bank, you have to have a certain propensity to be able to do that, though, right? And the longer you stay in poverty with an impoverished thought process, you'll transition into criminality. Well, the longer that you're in criminality, the more that you would need violent ideations to make criminality actually work, right? So there's phases. And a lot of times we think that these active shooters, like the ones that were able to open fire in a crowd of 1.2 million people at the Chiefs parade, we think, oh, they woke up with that on their mind. No. These are people that have been part of families that have been in poverty and criminality for so long that violence has taken shape. And now their 3rd and 4th generations has the ability to create that same type of violence because it's been programmed into how they think. Well, the best part about how neuroplasticity works is neuroplasticity believes that you can go into the neurological pathway, uproot it, plant different seeds, and create new pathways, but it has to be uprooted. Well, in our demographic, we learn with relationship first before education. So being able to create a relationship of understanding, accountability, vulnerability with these participants that are high-level shooters or high-level criminality and poverty, that is the key thing. I can pour into a cup that's half full, but most of the time when those 3 demographics arrive at some type of therapy or support and stuff like that, they've been solving so many problems for so long, the cups are completely full. And you probably look like the people that took my mama away or took my daddy away or you know what I mean? Or the CPS agent or whatever it was. You kind of look like, so I don't even trust you anyway. So you dang near got to rob a bank to get me to take some resources that I need to take, right? So we wanted to create something that hyper focused on that demographic, and I wanted to make sure that the wraparound supports and the financial supports went to a specific demographic. There's a lot of agencies that do a lot of great work in Kansas City, but being able to grasp poverty, criminality, and violence is not easy. You actually have to create a pipeline. So CVI workers, credible messenger interventionists, uh, one method is through networks, right? You pull somebody from a network from a certain hood, and then they're able to build relationship, and then that relationship offers them the opportunity to get to these supports. With Lyriks, we do pipeline and drop in. So we pipeline from family court all the way to the federal court. We also pipeline from shoot review, Casey Common Good, from parents and the police force. So young adults are having an actual contact. We are identifying somebody, a young adult that has actually had some type of poverty, involvement with poverty, and that could be like stealing, that could be arriving at school just without, or there's a lot of variables that kind of make allow somebody to fall into that. And then we have criminality. That's actually being on probation, being on diversion, being deflected from family court, or being deflected from state and federal court, municipal court. A lot of the shoot reviews, a lot of these things, they want to intervene and help, but they need help to help the people, right? So
Right.
that's how we pipeline into ours, because we understand, because we do cognitive behavior modification, it actually builds relationships. So I don't have to already have the relationship because of the modality that we use. And that's actually kind of rare, because a lot of organizations that are CVI led aren't led from the CEO standpoint as a CVI worker or a credible messenger or a lived experience person. It's usually people that are the case managers and the people that work directly with them. Because I am actually a CVI worker at core, I create programming and policies from the top down instead of from the bottom up. And that's why we have the pipelines that we do. And then we pipeline into three major programs. So we have our school-wide intervention where we go into the schools. Currently, we're inside of Grandview High School. We've been inside of KCPS, and then we do kind of pop-ups for KCPS, especially at their long-term suspension school that they have. So what we do is we do suspension interventions, we do classroom resets, fight interventions, ISS interventions, PDs for teachers. And the goal is, one, to engage young adults that come from that demographic, because our CVI workers lived it. The relationship building ability is this exponential. Allows us to really work with the actual problem. When kids are being suspended or they're being put in ISS or they're being reprimanded, a lot of times they're not examining the behavior, the thought process behind the behavior, and how it was cemented in. And that's what Lyriks wants to hyper focus on, is the thought process that drove the behavior, not just to put them in ISS because that's punitive. But if anything punitive without a recourse is, again, rehabilitation. And we're fully aware that kids need to be taken somewhere else. So that's our school-wide interventions, to make sure that we're serving schools and supporting schools with these young adults that are inside of those schools, and also helping administration and staff understand that these kids just talk like this. They look like this, but they actually still need to be taught, even though they look and seem aggressive. And then we have our cultural interventions, and that's where our diversion programs live at. Our diversion, our community service, our violent and criminal interventions. Here, young adults get access to 10 weeks of programming. For each session, we have 5 components to our program. They'll do 10 sessions in each one, and then they get a choice if they want to continue on. They'll be paired with a case manager for wraparound supports and career planning, and lifestyle planning too. And then they get assigned a culture coach and a navigator to be able to help them kind of navigate those things. But after that 10-week period, if they don't decide, then we release them to, their own choices. This is all voluntary, and this is all free to every participant. But if they choose to stay through the 5 sessions, then they'll catch case management and supports all the way through all 5 of the sessions, each 10 sessions apiece. But our flagship...
I'm sorry, where did those students come from? Also Grandview High School, or how do you bring them in?
From all of those pipelines.
Okay.
Every person has the ability to go into our website. We create these QR codes on these pocket packers, and we give them out to all of these agencies. So all they have to do is scan the QR code, and it'll take them directly to the registration for whatever it is that they need. If it's community service, if it's mentoring, if it's criminal and violent interventions, whatever it is, just scanning. What happened is our case managers will contact whoever signed them up, give them some resources, let them know. They'll come in, do a orientation. We sell them the program. Hey, do you want to do this? This is what we have to offer. These are the opportunities. Because if you come here grudgingly, you're not going to get it.
It's not going to work, right?
It's not going to work, right? So, and the crazy thing is, we have 100% sign up rate though. Like nobody comes and goes through the orientation and doesn't want to show up. What stops them from showing up are all the barriers that come along with being able to arrive at it that we try to eliminate. But as a small grassroots organization growing, we don't have all the resources that we need, just like some of the longer standing organizations though, right? And we're searching them. We're finding creative ways to get those resources. But as of right now, some of the kids are getting dropped because of funding. But that's the plight of a grassroots organization. But our flagship, overarching, this is the baby of Lyriks, is our iBuild program. And our iBuild program works with some of the most at-risk identified young adults that are pipeline from that pipeline that I was telling you about. And we take 20 per cohort through 6 months of programming, intense programming. They're going to meet with us 2 times a week for 90 minutes apiece. If they have transportation barriers, we're Ubering them back and forth. We pay them $206 every 2 weeks. So a month they're walking away with $406, altogether $2,500 for the whole 6 months, and the wraparound support. So this is anything from the phone needing to be repaired to rent or college tuition, support with college tuition. We'll even pay for a young adult to go to work for 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight until they can get a car. Like wherever the issue is, we're trying to help them with that. And that also allows us to help now the family that is around them, right?
Right.
For every young adult, we budget a certain amount, not only for the young adult, but also for 3 family members that are closest to the young adult. So that's how we get the funds to help with like groceries or housing needs, beds, or paying the rent, because it's allocated to support that whole group. And then they graduate. We buy each person either a suit or a gown or something work related, so they can go into workforce with a suit. A lot of young adults don't go into some workforce opportunities that need suits. So we just want to make sure that you have one in case that opportunity does happen. They go through a program called Career Pyramid, where they identify their passions through an agility training. Once they identify those, then we connect them with internships or jobs that's equitable for their age group. But some of our young adults are older, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and they need real jobs and real careers. So we partner with FEC. Yeah. We partner with Great Jobs KC. Sometimes they need high school diplomas and stuff like that. So we use a lot of our CBOs to get this work done with these young adults. But that's our flagship program. That's the one that a lot of people are very, very interested in, because they're like, hey, how A, do you get access to these young adults that we're struggling with to get access with? 2, how do you manage these gangs? Because they're actively gang banging inside of the program. How do you work with these young adults that are carrying guns and bringing guns into the building? Like, how are you helping solve some of these systemic problems that are going on at home? Like all of these questions are always asked. Like, how is all of this happening? And a lot of people have a lot of people are using Chat GTP to answer those questions, whereas that like we live those scenarios. So our answers are authentic. Let me say that.
Where are you at in terms of numbers of kids and young adults that you've been able to impact?
So currently right now, we started out last year with only, we wanted 20 kids in the first iBuild program. We ended up with 35. and that was crazy because I don't know how we came up with all the money to pay and support those kids, but we did. God is good. But this year we have 3 cohorts. We have 2 that are outside, and we have 1 cohort that is inside of Grandview. So that is
Mm-hmm.
upward to about 60 kids being served. That and then let's be clear, like we do quantity over quality. There's the active crime drivers and people that have the ability to have these violent ideations and execute them is very, very small. So saying we're serving 100 kids, 200 kids, that's a lot. That's a lot to say
Yeah.
that, but we're actually serving. We last time that we ran our numbers was 612 young adults that we have one-on-one actual contact with, that we do actual supporting, whether that's in the classroom or outside of the school. But overall, we're able to touch upward to 1,200 to 1,600 people because of the wraparound supports and the back to school opportunities and stuff that we have. And to note, we're only a $1.2 million organization. We're robbing Peter to
Only,
pay Paul. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
only
ma'am.
for other
Yeah.
nonprofits, that's huge. So
Yeah, for smaller ones, but for the amount of work and amount of impact that we have, we are actually the
right.
lowest funded program. Like the program that is closest to us, the annual budget is at 8 million to do the work. They're giving their participants upwards to 20,000 a year to do this work, to stop and eliminate violence and to get them access to supports. I just got back from Chicago. The CRED organization that does this work, they're 38 million. Another one that has a center is 22 million. We're grossly underfunded for the amount of work that we do, and because there's not a lot of agencies that do the credible messenger intervention work like us. There's only 2 in Kansas City, and 1 that focuses on 13 and 25, and that's Lyriks Institute.
How'd you come up with the name? I've been curious about that.
Mm-hmm. It's actually named after my first daughter. I I left Lyric, my daughter, when she was 3. I came back home when she was 11. I had been through a cognitive behavioral modification program when I was in the state. Let's just give context. So when I got indicted in the state, I had an A, B, C, D felony. I had an A and a B trafficking, a C tampering, and a D possession. Um, they had dropped all of that and just gave me the A and the B trafficking. And that's what got me sent to the state penitentiary. My probation officer advocated for me to go to the cognitive behavior modification. He was like, "Oh, you're too smart. You're playing the gray area and you're still getting the consequences of being all the way in the black. Like you're too smart for this. Let me help you." And that's how I got sent to the first spot. So I was sentenced to 10 years and did a 4-month program that if I did the 4-month successfully, then I would be released on 5-year probation. Well, a week before I was going home, they changed my federal number, and then I was indicted in the feds for a case that they had been investigating for about 2 years. So that's how I ended up I took in 4 cognitive behavior modification programs. So on my transition to the feds, I'm like, oh, I need to work on myself and I need to get this thing together because I gotta be okay for, what am I doing when I get home? Because I'm not gonna sell drugs no more. And then I called my daughter, and then lo and behold, she's boo-hoo crying. It's her birthday, and then come to find out she's been in a buddy room all day because I wasn't there for her birthday. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, I need to save my daughter. So let me dig deeper into this. Let me read more books into cognitive behavior modification." And then lastly, it was one day I was walking the yard in Leavenworth, USP, and there was this big, huge dude, man. He was standing next to this little bit old skinny guy, and he was complaining and whining to him that he couldn't kill his cellie. I've never heard anybody whine about killing anybody. Like that scared the hell out of me, right? But what it did was it made me realize, like, there's a lot of lyrics. Like I introduced my daughter to this system, but all of us have been introduced to this system, right? So at that point, it was like, yo, I want to name this after her because there's a lot of lyrics out here. There's a lot of people that have been introduced to this cycle just as well as my daughter. And for me to truly make meaningful impact, I had to look at this situation as if everyone, was a potential daughter or son to somebody. So that's how the name came about.
Lyriks Institution, amazing work. Go to their website, folks. Go ahead, tell us the website so they can engage with all the things you're doing.
For sure. It is definitely lyricsinstitute.com. That's Lyriks Institute.com. Love for you to check us out. The science behind lyrics is there, what we do, why we do it. Get a chance to see some of the work that we've already done. We have news articles, program reviews, and evaluations on there. If you want to learn about lyrics, if you want to understand the work that we're doing at a very specific level, you can definitely visit our website.
Kyle, thank you for your time and all the work you're doing in the community.
For sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice, and we're produced by a nonprofit called Charitable Communications. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on Casey Cares, visit our website, which is kccaresonline.org. And you can spread the love. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio, and Instagram, we're at Casey Cares Online. And don't forget, you can catch us Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 a.m. and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on Casey Cares.